Earful Tower listeners, it is Monday. That means a new episode. We're sitting here in Carcassonne still, and I'm here with lovely Lena.
Hello, everyone.
So what we're going to talk about today, 3 sections for this podcast. Hint, all going to be about Carcassonne. So if you don't care for Carcassonne, switch off right now.
No, stay, because you will care about Carcassonne after this.
Yes, well, you might actually, especially with these 3 sections. The first is going to be talking about the old fortified town, which I believe is the most interesting town in the whole of France.
You've become quite a history buff since we landed here. Yeah, I have to say.
Yeah, I know. I can't help it. Can't be helped.
I think it's an age thing.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
The second thing is who I would call the most interesting renovator that you've never heard of, French guy. And we're going to talk about him. I'm going to try and make everyone interested in him because I've got stocks in him. And then the third, I haven't. He's long dead. The third is the other part of town where we're staying and sort of village life and why it's been really fun for us. You ready to go?
Yes.
Well, let's bring on Slim and the Beast, who incidentally have been playing bigger and bigger shows in Paris, I've noticed.
I know, they're really quite getting there.
You know what my favorite song is from them?
I can guess.
This one. Take it away, guys.
Jump on the back, hold on tight, let's do it together, let's go for a ride, let's go for a ride.
And that was Slim and the Beast, and you're listening to the Earful Tower. My name's Oliver G, I'm your host, and I'm here with lovely Lena, my wife.
Hi.
Should we do that thing where we tell people what we're doing in case they're tuning in for the first time?
Probably.
Right, so we're on a honeymoon trip around France. We got married, decided to pack up everything, put it in storage, get on a little scooter, and drive around.
As you do.
As you do, as one does, in a
Yeah.
big love heart shape around France.
And we're about halfway through.
2,500 kilometers.
We thought we would be away for about 6 to 8 weeks. We have been away for
6 weeks.
6.5.
And we're at the bottom of the love heart
And
point.
counting.
There is no way we're going to get back to Paris within 2
No.
weeks. But we will we basically start the second half now.
Yeah.
So into Provence and then up the east coast.
I think this might be the better half.
I'm really excited
No
about
offense,
Provence.
Western France.
Mm.
We'll see. I don't know.
Anyway, if you're listening for the first time, now you've figured out what you're listening to. The Earful Tower podcast, top travel podcast in Australia, 2 days running. Yeah, that was big news in Carcassonne.
That was medieval trumpets for you.
I'd really like it if we could have some medieval noises for this episode.
Maybe we can. Maybe you can cut me out and just paste some trumpet
Maybe in the editing, some little noises will sneak into this episode. So let's see how it goes. But we will talk a little bit about medieval city of Carcassonne first, which I think is absolutely fascinating. So let me paint a picture. If you're sitting there... Oh, one thing I'll add. If you're sitting there listening, because there was a comment from a reader or a listener the other day, and they said they were commenting on all the Instagram pictures as they were listening. And it's actually a good way to listen to this episode is go back on Instagram.
Yeah, you get some visual for it.
You can see all the things we're going to talk about for the next 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Which will really help you picture Carcassonne. But together, maybe we'll try and describe it, the old medieval city for people. So I want you to picture... This is where the music will be. It'll be picking up now. Gradually. I want you to picture a fortified town. Now, this is the biggest fortified town in Europe that still exists, okay? And when I say fortified town, maybe you don't know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a big old wall around it. So I mean old. We're talking 2,500 years old. And what I love is it's not just one wall. It's 2 walls.
Yeah, double whammy.
Double whammy.
Whammy.
So what it is this really old town, massive wall around it, and then more recently, as in not 2,500 years ago, they built a second wall. A lot of regular listeners...
Which one came first? The inner or the outer?
Yeah, the inner one. The outer one was an add-on when they decided that they wanted to be even safer.
Of course.
Right. So I said regular listeners know that I love ramparts. It's becoming a bit of a running joke. When I did a chat on ABC Radio in Australia.
Yeah.
And the host,
I
Rod
remember.
Quinn, who will probably be listening.
Oh, I hope so. Hi, Rod.
Hi, Rod. He says, you love your ramparts, Oliver. I thought, oh, God, maybe I'm going on too much about ramparts.
Well.
But they're pretty good. So you can walk around. Now, let's just get this straight. These ramparts are where people would have stood in the old days firing arrows on the baddies when they were coming towards you.
Also on the lookout. You can see for miles and miles.
The city's up on a big old hill as well, so you're really high. And so these ramparts, they're perfectly preserved. You can walk all the way around bits and pieces of it. which we did. Took pictures up there. Brilliant. You can walk between the walls, which used to be sort of ramshackle shacks.
Yeah.
In the olden days before they ripped them down and renovated it, which we're going to talk about in a second. But the city itself is really lovely too. So you can walk around, look at there's a church, there's a chateau. There's a fortified chateau inside the fortified wall. It's probably the most protected chateau in the universe.
Yeah, I'd say so.
But you have to pay to get into that bit.
It's very fairy tale.
Fairy tile on the roof. No, it is. That's what they say. It's magical, like a fairy tale.
Kind of village.
And if you're struggling from our descriptions to picture this place, watch Robin Hood,
Prince of Thieves,
which was largely set there.
Yeah.
So when they used the old sort of castle scenes, that was out there.
Exactly, when they're trying to sneak into the castle.
And the other thing is, I think it's been taken down as we speak, but there was this art installation at the front. And I'm interested on you, Lena, with your artistic approach to life, what you thought about it. The sort of concentric yellow circles out the front.
I actually really liked it.
Right.
So basically you have these circles, about a dozen of them maybe, and it's supposed yellow circles, and when you stand in one specific spot
at the very entrance
of the whole fortified town, they form perfect circles. So they basically taped on
aluminum
taped onto the walls. So from any other location that you're standing looking at it, it's just going to look like
gobbledygook,
a scatter of yellow tape. And it was very controversial, and people, I know a lot of locals didn't really care for it.
Locals who we met a French woman. Yeah, we met a local woman who said that she, what did she say? She said she saw it in a newspaper, the local newspaper, before she went up and checked it out. She said, that is absolutely dégueulasse, revolting. But then she went up there and she loved it. Others we've heard of...
Also, she was dressed in complete yellow now, so I think maybe she got inspired by it.
It had an influence.
Yeah.
But anyway, these concentric circles were added because to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the city becoming a UNESCO heritage site. And they were just a temporary installation. So if you're listening to this and thinking, I want to go down to Carcassonne and see it, I'm sorry, guys.
Baby.
You'll have to watch the video I put up on YouTube.
Yeah, it's cool.
But you have to stand in the exact right place.
Yeah, and it's supposed to make you feel like you're entering into some kind of time...
That's what they said, a time warp, right?
Time warp, yeah.
Which I actually thought it was pretty good. A lot of the Instagram commenters were saying it was awful.
Really?
I thought it was quite... I
liked it.
Yeah. So there you go, Carcassonne Old Town. Totally worth a visit. Here's a tip. I did the walking tour where you pay... This was kind of weird. You pay €9.50 to do the walking tour for an hour and a half. They give you 6 pieces of print-out paper as a ticket. It was like I was going on a cruise or something.
Oh, no.
That stuck with me. And the tour, I'll be honest, it was a bit too much information. Too many dates. Because it's 2,500 years old. They had the Romans, the Visigoths, the Crusaders, everybody was there.
Too much.
Even the Nazis were there for a little bit.
Not even a puppet show for you.
No, they didn't make it. It was too informative and not interesting enough. So if you're thinking the same about this podcast, I'm very sorry. But at least you didn't pay €9.50 for this episode. So on to part 2 of this podcast, which is about the famous renovator that I thought I'd teach you, Lena, about.
Please
and via
do.
That,
I'll be your guinea pig.
Okay, yeah.
Or as I would say, genie pig.
What?
That's how I used to pronounce it before. You know, when you just, as a foreigner, or as anything, if you just read a word and you have no idea how it's pronounced, and you just kind of read it quickly, you have one thing in your mind, and then you try to say it out loud, and that's how I said it.
And that's when people laugh at you.
Genie pig.
But
yes.
it is written in a weird way.
It is.
It should be Guinea pig, if anything. Lena's Swedish, if you're listening for the first time and wondering.
Hello.
Also, if you're wondering why it sounds like we're in a bowling alley, it's I don't know if you can hear it in the background, but it's because people are running around upstairs, having a great old time.
Yeah. There might be a bowling alley upstairs.
We're staying in a 300-year-old place, as we mentioned in the past episode, the house of Catherine, who's her Airbnb place, who was in the last episode, and who will be very surprised to see that on all the artwork around the house, the tapestries of the old castles, I've added concentric yellow circles.
Artistic freedom.
And
At its best.
Anyway, so part 2, I'm going to teach Lena and everybody else about a gentleman who changed the face of France and Carcassonne.
Okay.
You ready? Let's paint the picture with the sound of swords. What's that? A trumpet in the background. We'll see if our team will be able to edit this in.
Okay,
but,
we'll see. How about
I have
the
a-
sound of a bowling hole?
I have a strong feeling our team will be able to do this.
Yes, good.
And by team, I mean me. So let's see. But what I was going to say, there is a chap who I have found absolutely fascinating, and his name was Eugene Viollet Le Duc. Probably
good
pronounced Le Duc. You probably don't pronounce the C on the end.
Oh.
But he was around, so he was born 1814, kicking around. Now, I'll give you a bit of background, but it's going to come to the point that he's involved in Carcassonne.
All right.
So this guy was an absolutely outstanding architect. The best anyone had seen in Paris. So good that when his parents tried to force him... Now, by the way, everything I'm saying is from memory. I'm not reading this. So if I make a little mistake, don't kill me. But I'm going to try and make it interesting for you, Lena, and listeners.
Yeah, just tell the story.
Right, so he was going to go to the Beaux-Arts University in Paris.
Renowned.
And you know what he said?
No.
He said, all the architects go there. They come out the same.
Boring.
Yeah, he said, I'm better
It's a
than
factory.
that. He said, I can do way more interesting. This is the same man who went to Pisa, saw the Leaning Tower of Pisa. You know what he said?
No?
He said, oh my God. He said, if
And
it
turn
was...
back.
He said, if it was straight, it would have been infinitely more interesting. See, he didn't care for the leaning part.
What?
Yeah. Anyway, so that gives you an idea of this kind of dude that we're dealing with. And he sort of rose to prominence with his first design, which was a barricade during one of the French revolutions. Right?
Well, now I'm picturing some kind of, in that film that you love so much.
Les Mis.
Les Mis
Yeah.
and they just put like chairs and tables on the street.
I pictured the same
Now
when I
I'm
read
picturing
it. But I think it would have been probably... I don't know what it would look like, but it must have been good because it caught the attention of
I
people.
suppose
Maybe
so.
it worked.
Maybe very nice chairs.
Anyhow, as he continues along, people find he has a very good eye for renovation. And I'm not talking about restoring like an old piece of art. Like renovating is in where things have been damaged. He'd fix them and add his own flair to it.
I see.
Now you're probably thinking, I don't care about this man with flair who had something to do with Carcassonne. I'll make you care about him. You know what he renovated?
Tell me.
Have you heard of a little-known cathedral called Notre Dame in Paris?
Well, yes, I do.
Well, so that's about 1,000 years old, and when he was around in the 19th century, they said, it's all damaged, it's 1,000 years old, all the gargoyles' heads have fallen off, the spire's fallen down in the wind.
Wow, catastrophe.
They said, Eugene, can you restore it? And you know what he said?
No.
He said, well, I'm not going to restore it, I'll renovate it. And he added a bigger spire.
A bigger one?
Bigger spire. He changed quite
Bigger
a bit.
Better.
Well, it had to stand up for the wind.
Yeah.
But the point is he changed things, and he was a little bit controversial in his time. But you might be thinking, I don't care for the Notre Dame. I don't know, maybe you're thinking that.
I think most people do.
I know, but imagine this. He also did restoration work and renovation work on Mont Saint-Michel.
Oh,
Yes.
and we have been there
Yeah,
quite
it
recently.
was, you might recognize it from the Sava video that I did, or maybe from the work of Eugene Viollet Le Duc. But that was where, if you don't know what I'm talking about, the fairy tale abbey on a mountain in the north of France.
Yeah, that
Normandy,
gets flooded
Brittany.
around.
Yeah,
Not.
beautiful. Where did the video where it said, ça va, ça va, ça va, ça va?
Yeah.
The
If
video was
not,
the least
Google it.
interesting part of it. Anyway, so this guy, he's going around restoring stuff. He did lots of work. Look him up, really interesting dude. He even did the Chateau de Vincennes down in Paris.
Wow.
He did all over the country. So get this.
Busy guy.
Very busy guy. But I think he was just drawing it, getting other people to do it.
So he's kind of like a head designer, and then
Exactly,
he got his
exactly.
minions.
But you know what his biggest work was?
No.
Carcassonne. So flashback, 150 years. Carcassonne, as we know it today, was in ruin. It was abandoned. Only a few squatters were living there between the two fortified walls, right? It like totally ruined. Everything was fallen down. It had been besieged so many times. It had been hit with, it was fallen to pieces, and it had been rebuilt. So this place is like a jigsaw, right? Rebuilt by all the people who'd lived there over 2,500 years. Anyway, no one cared about it. The French government said, let's knock it down. And the locals were like, no.
Really?
Yeah, this
Completely?
this was going to be gone. And then there was a big uproar. They said, don't knock it down. Everyone loves it in the southwest of France, blah, blah, blah. So a local is in there in the cathedral digging around in the church, and he finds the grave of a bishop. Doesn't matter who the bishop is. I can't remember the name, but it was a person of importance. And he said, there's more to this place than we know. Word travels, so 1850s, back to Paris. Guess who gets wind of this idea?
Only Le Duc, I
Yeah,
assume.
you're into this idea.
Yeah.
So Le Duc goes, whoa, I want to be involved in this. Comes down, long story short, to Carcassonne, gets out his pen, starts investigating what this city would have looked like, because it's had so many facelifts, like this big jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah, of
History's
course.
been rewritten so many times, everyone's claiming they built different pieces.
Oh,
but
wow.
as my tour guide in Carcassonne said, she said, history can be changed, it's written by the winners, but architecture and archaeology never lie. With this in mind, Mr. Le Duc he restored, renovated, and redesigned a lot of it. So he put his own personal touches
So
in.
the whole old city of Carcassonne.
More or less, right? He kicked out all the squatters. So between those two fortified walls was just shacks. Kind of
Like
like...
a shanty town.
Exactly, yeah. So he was
Really?
like, get rid of them, kicked them all out.
And you guys should see it now. It's like, it's empty.
People will be on the EarfulTower.com looking at the pictures
Yes.
as we're speaking, or their Instagram account, or the YouTube account. Anyway, so he went in there and he fixed it all. A really big job. I think it took decades to do. And he was criticised. Hey, he was and still is today. People say, you got the roofs wrong. They say, you got the tiles wrong. It's too much. He was too much of a fan of Gothic architecture, they say. They also say he was inspired too much from the north of France. But God, give him a break, this guy.
I mean, yeah, there's a choice. Carcassonne with the wrong roof tiles or no Carcassonne.
Exactly. And so as a result, it's actually thanks to this guy, Eugene Viollet Le Duc, right? It's literally thanks to him that the place turned from ruined, abandoned shantytown into tourist destination, where it remains today one of the top tourist destinations in the country, and where 3 million people each year flock to see.
Really?
So there you go. There's the story.
Well, you know what I would like to call him?
What would
You
you
know
like to
how I have little nicknames for people in history that we learn about along the way?
Eleanor of Aquitaine is the Oprah of Europe.
Yeah, Oprah of the Middle
Yeah.
Ages or whenever she was kicking around.
That hasn't caught on, by the way.
No, it will.
Okay.
I'm not giving up on it yet.
Okay, what's Eugene then?
Eugene, I would call him the one of the property brothers.
The Property Brothers.
Yes, you
You
know,
mean the
on TV.
Canadian
yeah,
TV
yeah, the
brothers who-
renovation guys. They go around and
How
they just like.
dare you?
But just one.
How dare you
Maybe
bring
two
him
in
down
one.
to that level?
What?
The Property Brothers won't be remembered
Great show.
in 150 years.
Yeah.
But hey.
Sponsored by Property Brothers.
Anyway, that was the story of Eugene Viollet Le Duc. And if you're interested in more of his stuff, he's done a lot of work in, Google him. You'll see there's a link on the website, but he's done a lot of big chateaus around France.
Mm-hmm.
And his own apartment building that he lived in Paris, I think it's the 9th arrondissement, where he did the facade or whatever, still stands to this day. So when I'm back in
Really?
Paris, I'll be checking that out and paying my respects to the late Le Duc.
Oh, for sure.
Anyway, that's part 2. What did you think? I don't know. Do you believe
I liked
me?
it. Yes, I do actually.
I
You
have
seem very knowledgeable.
Well, I've
about
become a
this.
bit of a nerd about it all.
Yeah.
I've visited the old city 4 times in 4 days. A bit excessive.
Maybe
I love
slightly.
it. I
No,
love it.
it's
I love
good.
it.
When in Carcassonne.
Rampart Walk. Did you see that one? Did you
Yes.
watch it? You were a bit sick in bed, so I went walking on the ramparts by myself. There's 4G. How's this, right? This is before we get on to the last section. When I did these live YouTube walks, the internet worked really well, like the 4G internet inside the city wall. And every time I walked through the old city gates outside, it stopped working.
Oh wow, they really want to keep you in there.
Yeah, it was weird.
Maybe there's a Wi-Fi
Yeah, I wonder.
tower spire in there.
But I must say the Wi-Fi around the rest of the village has been as medieval as the village itself. Have you noticed that?
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, on with part 3. So part 3 of the podcast, you might think that's not the sound of swords in the background. That sounds more like petanque balls and marketplace. You know why?
Well.
Because New Carcassonne is a very charming little sort of French village that's not so medieval in feeling, isn't it?
No, I would quite like to call it the Manhattan of southern France.
The Manhattan of southern
I
France?
know, it's a bold statement.
You must
but
be leaving somewhere history-wise.
well, slightly,
Yeah, go on
maybe,
then.
slightly. So it's interesting. It's one of the few smaller villages and older smaller villages who have
I think
older...
it's like 1,000 years old, roughly, right?
Yeah, I think so. All the streets are basically a grid.
Yeah, so
Like New York, like Manhattan.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like a check-it. So what they say, we got a book here in this house where it says it's the oldest example of, in fact, it says the first example of a checkered street grid. In other words, the streets are all on right angles to one another, like Lena said in Manhattan. But I looked it up, that's nonsense.
Yeah.
Because they say in Pakistan, 2,500 years before Christ. as
Oh
in
yeah,
4,500
they were
years
definitely
ago.
first. But maybe this one is
I think it's the oldest surviving in Europe.
Exactly.
Let's give it that. So if you walk into this old town, it's really odd after we've been through hundreds of villages on this trip, and all the villages are typically, winding streets leading up to the church that have since been expanded. Even Paris is very much like that.
Exactly, and it's very easy to get lost because you don't really know what direction you're walking in anymore.
Which is also the same in Paris, like in the Marais district, one of the oldest parts.
But here, it's very much organized.
You know what is grid in Paris? Is the islands in the middle. They're organised in a grid.
Because they're newer, aren't they?
No, I think because they're older.
What happened to the cow island?
That's a whole other story.
Season 2.
You're back in season 2. But there's something about that, because that's the oldest part of Paris, and we're not going to go into it. But that's also grid, but the rest of Paris isn't. But the new part of Carcassonne is gridded, and it's kind of interesting to see that, because we haven't seen that as we've been travelling around.
It's different.
And our host, Catherine, from the last episode, said that if the fortified town of Carcassonne wasn't 20 minutes walk from where we are, the place that we're sitting right now, this new part of town, would be a tourist attraction in itself. A Bastide town,
yes, of course.
Which regular listeners will remember is like a sort of walled, squarish town. Yeah. Very small, very charming, with a big square in the middle, with a marketplace 3 times a week.
Yeah.
It's the kind of place where you'll get on the first name basis with the strawberry salesman.
And he will talk to you a lot.
We had a great chat with him.
Yeah, it's hard to get away.
And we've also been. What else have we done? There was a tank tournament.
Oh yeah, that was exciting. But also, I just want to say that I have finally gotten over my fear of open spaces. I could say.
Your fear of open spaces?
Well, in Swedish we call it torgskräck, which means you're afraid of markets.
Right.
And that's basically fear of open spaces. That phobia is translated like that. But what I mean is that I finally managed to walk around the French market and talk to the people, talk to the vendors, and haggle a bit and just kind of get into it. And I've always been so scared of it, but I've done it. I'm really excited. I managed to buy cheese.
I think a lot of people that are listening, especially people who like coming to Paris or France, tourists from abroad, will empathize even with what you're talking about, the idea of being afraid to talk to a vendor of fruit or food or cheese or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Explain, because I've talked about it on the show before. I am usually too.
Yeah.
What was the turning point? What made you feel better about it?
I don't know if whether it's the fact that it's a smaller city and not as busy, so you feel like the people they have more time for you.
Whereas
so it's
Paris,
not as rushed and people are not shouting and it's just crazy in Paris.
In Paris, you feel like you got 1.5 seconds to do anything.
Exactly, and they just kind of give you something, and that at the end they give you a huge bill, and you just feel you have to pay it, of course. Yep. Whether here you can discuss a bit, what kind of cheese would you like, where is that from, what's good at the moment, or you can even try different peaches if you want. And
you can squeeze their plums.
You can squeeze their plums. That sounded quite suggestive.
No, but there was a lady there, and we said we want some, I think, peaches or plums to eat.
Yeah.
And she was touching them all, and then she goes, feel them, feel what feels good for you. And we just got chatting.
Yeah, it's great.
If you follow, that's another thing on Instagram. I actually filmed you. Chewing on a plum.
But I mean, it might sound ridiculous, this whole fear of markets, but it's been real.
Well, I agree with you, because I had the same thing in season 3 when I had Clotilde du Soulier from Chocolate and Zucchini, and she said it was kind of like a therapy session, and I was like, what, how you meant to do it? And she explained it didn't change anything for me.
Yeah,
but being in the countryside did.
Yeah, maybe it's being in the countryside. Maybe it could also be the fact that I feel like my French has improved since this trip, actually. And
me too.
Yeah, for many various different reasons.
But mostly because I think the biggest part of it is people will let you talk.
Exactly.
They're more patient than they are in
and
Paris.
People don't want to switch to English because they basically don't speak English.
But also, often. I think another big part of it is that people are very curious about the trip that we're doing. They see the scooter or they ask, where are you from? And then you get chatting. And we have this advantage, which I think a lot of people have this advantage when you speak a foreign language. You know your story very well. You can say that in a foreign language. Hey, my name's Oliver. I'm from Australia. I'm this old, whatever. I work as this. Our story now has sort of become, we're traveling around France in the shape of a heart, top speed of 50 kilometers, whatever.
Yeah. And
then that leads, you get rolling, the ball gets rolling.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're in Paris and you're trying to order cheese at a fast pace, they don't care where you're from, who you are. They just
want to get the next customer over.
Typically. Now, I'm sure there are people going, well, people in Paris will talk to you. But I'm talking about more just a...
Well, I agree with you, at least from my previous experiences.
We have to agree. We're married now.
By law.
Yeah. Anyway, Carcassonne. Let's finish up with a little recommendation here. Once again, we're not sponsored by this town. I'm telling you the truth. I think this is absolutely one of the most interesting cities in France.
Not to mention that the Canal du Midi goes through it all. So if you're into boats or just a nice autumnal walk by the canal, this is the place.
So if you've never heard of the canal, this goes from Toulouse all the way down to the Mediterranean, which is hundreds of, maybe 200 kilometers plus. And it just sort of snakes down through Carcassonne and beyond with all these like footpaths next to it.
Yeah.
And big plane trees. And
exactly. So you can go bicycling on the side of it.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
So there's lots of day trips around here. And like I said, even if you're not into history, like I really wasn't before. And I mean, you're not known for being a history buff, to be fair, but you like it.
Yeah, I like stories.
I think this place is full of stories. So do yourself a favor on your next trip to France. Consider coming down to Carcassonne.
But in the meantime, check out the blog.
Yeah, I'm gonna
for pictures
and just
more inspiration.
I wrote when I was researching this. I wrote a blog post that'll be up.
Perfect.
Maybe people will have read it already. But anyway, come down here. Let me know if you do. Tag me in your Instagram story or whatever you do, Facebook. I don't know. And
whatever floats your canal boat.
Yeah, and let me know if you liked it as much as we did. So that was the episode for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. We're just going to talk about, basically this is just ads now. So if you've got other things to do, you should turn it off. No? And a few reviews. I'm going to be honest with you, turn it off. But the big news is, from me and you, is you designed a t-shirt.
I did.
The idea is, if you've enjoyed this season and think, heck, I'd like to help these guys out to fill up their petrol tank a little bit.
Or just, I'm really into t-shirts.
Yeah, they could be into t-shirts.
Yeah.
So what is it that you design?
Well, it's basically I don't know if you've seen it, you guys have seen it. I'm trying to talk virtually into the audience's ears.
Sure. They've turned off already, probably.
Well, it is the logo that I designed for the honeymoon season.
The scooter.
Which also featured on our wedding invites.
That's true. That's true.
Yes. So it's that motif on the chest of a white t-shirt.
A white t-shirt, unisex. The reason we do it, someone got in contact, said, I make t-shirts, I ship them out. I know you're on the road, but you seem to have a lot of listeners. Maybe they'll buy your shirt. And we said, yeah, that could be a good way to support. So if you're interested, there's a link wherever you look for it, or just email me. €25, they ship it out to you. And you'll be supporting the podcast, basically.
And you look cool and fresh.
I got a review to read, but also a comment on the t-shirts from Sally Langston.
Okay, I recognize that name.
I think she's
Hello, Sally.
I think she's I know she's a Patreon supporter, but I think she's also a Deuxième Shoe buyer.
Yeah, she's a very, very valued customer indeed.
She says, I bought a t-shirt. I enjoy supporting you guys. The honeymoon season has brought me so much joy, and now I have a long list of places I must see in France. Darn you, Oliver! A bit excessive, Sally, with the darn you at the end.
But you made her schedule way too busy.
We've been getting emails from people who've been booking trips around France.
Yes, it's pretty cool.
And I think it's really touching that you guys believe me. But I mean it. I mean, when I say go to Carcassonne, you should go to Carcassonne.
Yeah, definitely. It's
but thanks, Sally, for buying the t-shirt. If anyone else wants to buy the t-shirt, please do it. It's only, the sale's on, Monday today. It's only going to be on for another 6 days, I think. Yeah. And then...
that's it. Limited.
And
exclusive.
We'll see if the listeners are interested in t-shirts too.
Yeah, time will tell.
I wanted to end the show on a review. As I said, the podcast, for the first time ever, has ranked number 1 on Travel Podcast in Australia, which might not sound like a big deal to all you listeners around the world, in America or wherever you are, but it's a big deal for me, especially because I'm Australian. But that means it's above all the travel podcasts in the whole world for Australian listeners, at least for the past couple of days. So I don't know.
I think it's pretty big.
I'm pretty happy about that.
We should celebrate.
We shall. But first, with a review. And the reason I read the reviews is because the way podcasts work is if you have lots of reviews and lots of high star ranking, whatever, when people search for it, they're able to find it easier. And that's my whole idea, is for more people to listen to the show.
Spread the word.
It's not just to scratch my own back. That's not why I read them. Plus, I think this is quite nice. A whimsy and entertaining and educational distraction from my long commute to and from work.
Perfect.
That's this is coming from Catherine in Minnesota, USA.
Well, that's very good.
She says, I found this podcast about 9 months ago. The gestation period for a human, incidentally. That's not what she wrote. She says, I love Paris and I try to visit at least every other year. I also try and get a few days in the south. I was currently planning my 2019 vacation when I stumbled upon this podcast. As of today, I've been able to listen to almost all of the older episodes, and I'm now currently listening to them as they come out. So hello, Catherine.
Yes, hello.
There are many new things I learned about Paris and that I shall plan to visit. The guests have been interesting and informative. Do you count as a guest, Lena? No, you're a co-host.
I don't know. I think I'm a guest. I feel like a guest.
Yeah, okay. Well, that makes
Just
you
like
interesting
really
and informative.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thanks, Catherine.
Yeah.
And now, when I do it like that, that's her voice. And now, onto the honeymoon tour. I've learned about so many new places to look at instead of just heading to Provence and Toulouse. Good point. France is a lot more than just Paris and Provence and Toulouse. So,
absolutely.
I will try and plan to squeeze in a few days in the couple of villages that Oliver and Lena have visited. Lena spelled Lena.
I know. Guys, it's Lina.
This review needs to be taken off the internet.
Nah, it's alright. It's peculiar, I know.
All in all, I'd say if you're interested in France, I'd give this podcast a listen. And if you're looking for something new to see or do, give it a listen. It certainly does make my commute much brighter. Thank you. And P.S. I too am obsessed with French doors as well. Catherine, you're a woman after my own heart. The doors of France.
Here we go.
I have to get a few words. The time's running out, but I'm going to get it. The doors in Carcassonne are actually pretty good. And what I've been doing is taking pictures of the door knockers. Much to the chagrin of you.
Oh.
You know, the chagrin.
The chagrin.
The chagrin is really good door knockers. I think I'll add some to the post. So if you needed one more reason to go on the EarfulTower.com, look at the knockers.
Yeah, if you're into good knockers.
Check out those fantastic knockers. Anyway, time's up. Bring in a few more. I was going to bring in a few more sword fighting noises, but I think we'll hand it over to Slim and the Beast to sing us out. We'll see you guys on Monday, where we'll be giving you an episode from. Do you know where, Lena?
We will be giving.
Trick question.
No, I don't.
No one knows, but we do know we're heading to Béziers.
And Montpellier.
Towards Montpellier, yep. So, thanks for listening, thanks for all your reviews, and if you buy a t-shirt, send us a picture of you wearing it and we'll share it. Is that what we'll do?
Yeah, why not?
Go on then, do it! Talk to you soon.